Silent Pocket is a proud sponsor of the Shared Security podcast. Silent Pocket offers a patented Faraday cage product line of phone cases, wallets, and bags that can block all wireless signals, which will make your devices instantly untrackable, unhackable, and undetectable. Use discount code SHAREDSECURITY to receive 15% off your order. Visit silent-pocket.com to take advantage of this exclusive offer.
Hello and welcome to the Shared Security Podcast, episode 82 for November 29th, 2018. I'm Scott Wright, the Streetwise Security Coach, and as usual, I'm here with Tom Eston, who is still recovering from his turkey dinners, I think. Is that right, Tom?
Yes, I'm trying to. I'm doing better now, so.
You're not laid out on the floor talking?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. So today we have a special guest from my neck of the woods, right here in Ottawa, and we're going to disprove the old saying that Ottawa is the town that fun forgot by inviting our special guest. She's a purple-loving pen testing application security guru. That's a mouthful. Based right here in Ottawa. We're proud to have Tanya Janca. How are you doing, Tanya? Tanya? I can't even talk.
I'm Tom. How you doing?
Tom and Tanya.
I'm good. How are you two?
Very well, very well. Very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome. I'm kind of a fan of Scott because I saw him speak before at my very first security conference ever.
Oh, wow. Was that at Countermeasure?
So it was at Countermeasure. So then when you wrote me, I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Oh, wow. That's fun. I remember we were sitting at a table at the lunch at that thing, and you were working at Elections Canada at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Very good. Yeah. I mean, Tanya's a legend here. Tanya, sorry. I don't know why I keep saying that. Just somebody kick me. Nobody here.
Trying to. I can't reach you from here.
Anyways, yeah. No, we're very happy to have you here. And I think what I'd just like to do, first of all, is let you tell people a little bit about what you do and what you're into.
Okay. I'm a software developer turned security person. And I used to do some pen testing. And then I discovered that you could do AppSec, which is sort of the position between the security team and the dev team, where you do testing, but then you help them fix it. And there's a problem, so then you teach them how to do better. And you teach them security tools, and you get to add things to the pipeline. And I was like, this is where I want to be. And then I started doing public speaking. I got a bit addicted. And I started doing it so much that I stopped going to work. And then I got offered a job at Microsoft to do that all the time.
Oh, good. I'm glad you didn't end up on the street then. Yeah.
I was just like, I'm just going to burn out all my vacation and overtime and just keep going to conferences. This is the best.
Yeah, it is fun. Well, we're glad that you chose that profession and that you're still with us and teaching people as well, right? And speaking and still active in AppSec, right?
Yeah, definitely. It turns out that teaching is sort of my passion that I had not realized I had. And I'm pretty obsessed with securing our software and also cloud security and how it's like the concepts of DevOps and how it's so different and also way better. And from I feel from a security's perspective that there's like this huge opportunity for all of a sudden security to succeed if we just like get on board the new like cloudy DevOps bus.
Yes. Excellent. That's great. I know that I think we've seen posts within our own sort of LinkedIn community of people talking about DevOps and DevSecOps. And I remember actually just last week I saw there was a post that you commented on from somebody who made a typo and she called it DevSecOps. And Tanya said, "Oh my God,
if my name was
Deb."
I'd call it DevSecOps every day.
Yeah, but yeah, we shouldn't be allowed to have that much fun in security.
No, not at all. So how did you get your start in AppSec? How did you end up where you're at?
So I had a brief stint in security in 2007, 2008, doing like anti-terrorism activities for the government. And then I decided security was scary. I didn't want to work in security at all. It was not a fun time. and serving our country is good. But I was like, ooh, no, security's not for me. And then years later, I'm in a band, and there's like a pen tester in our office, and he's in a band. And so I'm, like the lead programming tech nerd, and then he's the pen tester. And then I'm like, you're in a band, I'm in a band. And I'm like, do you want to make a mobile app where if people get really close together, that a song comes on and then they have to have a dance party or else? And he's like, yes. So we instantly became friends. And then he's like, you need to become a pen tester. You'd be so good at it. You're vicious. And I was like, I don't know. And then slowly I became his apprentice, and then we started working together. And then I switched jobs to do security things at elections. And I was like, this is pretty awesome. I like it. And I just kept learning more and more. And because I'm a developer at heart, and most of the security people that I've worked with aren't. And so they'd always be like, stupid developers. Like, why are they writing such crappy code? I'm like, dude, I'm that stupid developer. I did those exact things because that's what I taught in school. So I felt like I always had this empathy that other people didn't have for them. And then they would actually tell me what's going on. They're like, so this thing happened. I'm like, okay, well, let's go fix it. They're just used to the security person running up and slapping their hands and saying no. And I was like, well, you still have to push that code out. So let's fix it. Do you know what I mean? Instead of just Dr. No, as I call it.
Dr. No.
I used to call my old security person Dr. No, because he would all he would say was no to me. He'd come in meeting rooms. We'd be like, hi, Dr. No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is one of the most interesting stories I've heard of how someone got into AppSec. That's really cool.
That also supports my theory that all pen testers are musicians.
Right?
Yeah, I know. I play guitar. Yes. Scott, do you play anything?
I played guitar and drums at one time.
Oh, see?
I don't anymore, but I guess, yeah. But I also am not much of a pen tester either, so.
Oh, okay.
It still holds the rule, right? So.
We're accepting you in the club. Yes, I say you're in the club.
All right. All right. Well, I will modestly accept. Okay. So now Tanya does more than just AppSec, right? You have other interests.
Yeah, I have all sorts of interests. I'm obsessed with OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, and I started my own. So I have a chapter in Ottawa, and there's all sorts of wonderful human beings in it. And I've been one of the chapter leaders for 4 years. But then a year ago, my friend Nicole Becker was like, "Do you want to start an OWASP project with me? Because I want to learn how to crush DevOps. I want to learn how to do security testing in that sort of environment. Do you want to start a project?" And I was like, you had me at hello. And then now we have all these pipelines that we do crazy things with, and we have this little streaming show on Sundays, and we just mostly she crushes things and then I build things and then we knock them down, and it's pretty fun.
Well, before we forget, can people see your streaming show?
Yes, you should come see my show. We're on Twitter and Twitch every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is Toronto, Ottawa, New York City time. And we stream there. And if you just look up She Hacks Purple, that's our channel. And then we save all of our videos to YouTube. So again, if you look up DevSlop, that's us. Yeah, sloppy DevOps.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
So there's no real magic behind the name. It just.
Well, Nicole was just like, what should we name ourselves? I'm like, I don't know. She's like, what about DevSlop? Ha ha ha, because it's going to be sloppy. And I was like, I kind of love that.
It's actually perfect. Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And then I'm also involved with this group called WIST, Women in Security and Technology. And we have a couple chapters, and basically it's for women and those that identify as women. And we get together and we do a bunch of things. So we brunch like badasses, where we get together, we talk, and we get to know each other. And then we have people mentor each other. And then we give each other workshops, and then we crash boy meetups. So since you're men, you might not be aware that when you go to a technical meetup, it'll be 100 men and you, if you're a woman. And it's really intimidating. Like the first time I went to our Python meetup, you know, they're drinking beer, we're on private property, and I'm just like, oh my God, there are so many men. And then they're all like, a woman has never come to our meetup. So they're all staring at me like I'm an exotic animal. And I'm like they're all staring at me and I'm like pretending they're not. And I'm just like, I want to crawl under the sofa and disappear. And like, they're great guys. Like they're so nice, like now that I know them. But like the first time I was like, I'm terrified.
So basically you bring strength in numbers, right?
Yeah, so we go as a group. So
cool.
Went to B-sides together. We went to a capture the flag together, and then no one's the only woman there. And then we have a lot more fun. So it's pretty cool so far.
Excellent. That's amazing.
That's awesome. So that actually leads to a question I wanted to ask you. So what advice do you have to women and maybe minorities that want to get their start in AppSec or cybersecurity?
So I wrote an article about this called Getting Started in Security. And I'm not going to cheat and just read off the things from the article for you, but I'll share you a link to it for the notes.
Perfect.
The way I have been so successful is getting a professional mentor. So my professional mentor, the first one found me, but the second one, I trapped him. So I started a mentoring program for my OWASP chapter so that I could get him to be my mentor. He's like, you didn't have to do all of that, right? I'm like, it worked, didn't it? and then I met Nicole, and then she was just like, do you want to help with this thing? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, do you want to help with this other thing? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do you want to come to New York City? I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, do you want to come on stage with me? I'm like, yeah. And then we've traveled the world together now. And so I guess it's a lot about saying yes and about offering to help wherever you can and finding someone that believes in you. So I mentor a whole bunch of people now. And I started, so if you go on the OWASP Slack, like the international OWASP Slack, there's a channel for mentors and mentees. And people go on there and they're like, I need this or I need that. I'm looking for this. And people come on and start talking to them, and people are pairing off quite a bit, which is really cool. Yeah. So
that's great.
Getting a professional mentor, I'd say, is a really good start. Also teaching yourself. And if people give you a hard time, just remember that that's a reflection of who they are instead of who you are. Because I have had a couple blips in my career that didn't go that well. And I'm like, you know what? Like if you bump into someone in a bad way, or I was briefly seeing someone who then felt the need to tell everyone all personal details. I'm like, oh my gosh, 2 weeks of dating, it's like ruining my career. But yeah, I know. But I'm just like, you know what? I'm a professional. I'm just gonna keep acting like myself, not gonna talk about that, and just like keep doing things. And then it just went away very quickly, right? But like, if you can just, if people are gonna give you a hard time, remember that it's them being inappropriate. It's not you. And don't lower yourself to their standards, because like.
Yeah. Great advice.
Because if someone's gossiping to me about all sorts of people or saying bad things about all sorts of people, I'm like, oh, what are you saying about me?
Yeah. Great leadership advice too. Yeah.
Thanks.
So Tom, any other questions for Tanya?
Yeah, you had mentioned, your involvement in DevOps and the really cool project that you had talked about with OWASP, DevSlop, which I think is a great name for an OWASP project. Maybe for our audience that's not familiar with the concept of DevOps, or we've also heard DevSecOps, can you maybe explain a little bit about what that is and how that applies to our world?
Yes, this is totally my favorite topic. Okay, so we used to do waterfall. Right? And we would make software in this really slow way where the client would be like, I want this. And we'd like jot it down. And then we would disappear for 1 to 2 years and then come back and be like, is this what you wanted? And they'd be like, what are you talking about? Who are you? I forget. We'd get like no feedback and there'd be no communication. And like 25% of all projects failed, I think, at least. And then we started Agile. And then now we're in the land of DevOps, where instead of doing one giant monolithic application and one huge gigantic release, we just release small pieces of things over and over so each piece has less risk, and we communicate constantly and get feedback constantly, and we try to automate all the boring things. So we create pipelines, which is a thing that I'm currently kind of obsessed with, where you have all of these checks and tests, including security tests, and it goes through all of these things. And if it makes it to the end, then it goes out and is released into the wild of the internet. But if it doesn't, then you have stuff to fix, which is what was happening to me the night before last, because I had a big presentation yesterday. But I fixed it all the time. Yes.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, and like DevOps has so DevOps is about people, processes, and what is the third P? Like tools,
technology.
Basically. Yeah, technology. People, processes, and technology. That's the third P. And but basically, you want everything to go faster and in smaller things, and you want to emphasize the speed of the whole system. But then you want feedback immediately, and then you want to be able to take risks and learn constantly. And then DevSecOps, which some people call DevOps done correctly, it's just like AppSec in a DevOps environment, right? Like, like it's AppSec professionals figuring out how to operate in DevOps and like provide value and like not slow down that system to a crawl and like provide learning opportunities all the time and like support dev and ops in making sure their systems are secure. And I have like this thing I took from Pete Scheidschlock that I put at the beginning of every presentation on DevOps, and it's like this rainbow DevOps unicorn, and then it's pooping rainbows, and then security behind it scooping it up. And I'm like, this is what some people see, but that's not what I see. We could do so much better.
That reminds me of I think it's the banner on your LinkedIn page, right? Where you're standing and doing a presentation and it says, your definition of security has to include.
Yeah, your definition of quality must include security. It must be secure, or it's not a high quality product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I have an amen?
Amen.
So cool. Are you seeing companies actually implement this? Like, have they started moving away from Agile and Waterfall, or do you see it as kind of a big mix right now, and it's a little bit hard for companies to do?
I think that everyone has a different amount of knowledge and a different amount of risk tolerance and a different amount of managers that are willing to actually say yes. So I think that if you don't have managers that are on board, it's really hard to do anything. And if you have people that are undertrained, which I see quite a bit, like that's why I actually started speaking at conferences, because I just wanted to get in for free. And I was like, I can trick them. I will spend 6 months writing a talk and researching it and practicing it so I can get into this 2-day conference for free. Yes. It's still my plan. Like, people are like, do you want to come talk outside? I'm like, no, man, someone's going to teach me something. But I feel like how to do DevOps, like, first of all, people should read the DevOps handbook. That's the best book I've read in years. And then the Phoenix Project, so that I
was going to mention that. Great book.
So you know you're not alone. Yep. But then after that, like, I think that the best way is to kind of dive in and just try to do it. And I think a lot of companies, maybe they forget because they have deadlines, and they forget to give their employees learning time. They forget to give their employees experimentation time. And experimentation is where like a lot of those new amazing ideas come from. And if you're working them into the ground every single week, like I know, like I have some big deadlines right now for work, but usually they try to work experimentation time into my week. Like, my boss will say to me, like, what are you going to learn this week? And I'm like, ooh, glad you asked, Steve, because I'm going to learn this thing. Like, he bought me a book, and he's like, are you reading it? I'm like, yeah. Because like, you're not going to get better and create new and cool things if you don't have time. And so it depends. Like Microsoft is a DevOps job, and each tool that you see us release, we write with .NET code, and we release through Azure DevOps. Like, we drink our own champagne, as the saying goes, or eat our own dog food, which I don't. Why would we?
Champagne sounds better. Yeah.
Yeah, I know we call it dog food, but I'm like, no, but dogs eat dog food and we're humans. But so we drink our own champagne, but it's good though, because then it's got to be good or we'll be annoyed with it, right?
Yeah. Every time you post something on LinkedIn, Tanya, I'm looking at it. I'm going, I think my developer needs to know this. so I keep passing it over to him, and he's going, yeah, okay, I'll have a look.
Thank
and
you.
he's trying.
Instant education.
because
Yeah.
we're doing .NET work in Azure, and it's all perfectly relevant. And he's a brand new grad, so he's still energetic enough to learn this stuff. So that's great.
Oh, that is awesome. I'm trying to make it easy. I'm dyslexic. Not, when people say they are, but they're really not. And just so you know that I can still read. A lot of people are like, oh, you can't read. How do you write those articles? I'm like, no, that does not mean illiterate. But I'm dyslexic, so sometimes when I learn things, it can be more difficult for me than other people. And so sometimes like I'll explain things 3 different ways in a talk, and people are like, that's so helpful. I'm like, that's because that's how many times it took me to fully 100% grasp it, right? And then when I'm teaching it, I feel like I'm better at explaining things because it was so hard for me to learn. Like when I learned to play guitar, it took like 2 years before I could play songs and make them sound good. But my friend Luke, like my childhood friend, he just picked up a guitar and he could just play from the very first moment. He could listen to songs on the radio and just like play them back to you. And he is my friend, and he is the shittiest teacher ever. Because he's just like, you just do this, and then he's like, because he's literally gifted, and like I am not gifted. Yeah. And I just have to like sludge through until I get it. And so, yeah. So
you've been through the trenches. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
Edgewise Networks is the first zero-trust platform that stops data breaches by allowing only verified software to communicate in your cloud and data center. Micro-segmentation projects can be costly and difficult, but Edgewise offers a new approach: zero-trust segmentation. Without any changes to your network environment, Edgewise puts your data at the heart of your security strategy, giving you visibility into workload communication pathways, security policies built on the cryptographic fingerprint of the software, the ability to apply policies and segment your networks in one click, and a way to continuously monitor and assess risk. Edgewise recommends policies based on the identity of your software and stops attackers' lateral movements by requiring authentication and authorization with every workload communication. Visit edgewise.net to learn how Edgewise can eliminate network attack surface, stop lateral movement, and protect your applications.
So would you say the same thing applies for privacy? Privacy by design, you probably heard that term. I think developers have a big role in privacy and into the code they develop and the applications they're building. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that?
I think that privacy is sort of a part of security, if that makes sense, or should definitely be considered part of security. Like in my mind, it is. And I think that when you design things, that you should take secure design principles, which include privacy for your users and for your not users, right? Mm-hmm. I actually, when I was at DEF CON this summer, I was in a hotel room with a whole bunch of dudes hanging out, because that's what happens at DEF CON. And then one of them had an incident happen with his company. And they do like these events. And the way that the event thing worked is like you could look yourself up and then you could see all the events you were going to without a username or password. And he's like, yeah, someone's freaking out on us. And I was like, oh my God, it's about privacy. And he was at the startup and they only had 4 people working there and they were all men. I'm like, I don't want people to necessarily know where I am. Like, what if I had, like, I don't have any awful exes that are dangerous or anything like that, but what if I did? Because some women are in that situation and some men are too, right? And like, you deserve to have where you've been private. So it would like tell people where you've been. And I explained it to him and he's like, oh shit, I never thought of that. I'm like, this is why we need diversity in tech, because that didn't even occur to me. And like now you have one of your users losing their crap on you, terrified because like she thinks her ex knows where she is or where she's gonna be. And it was just this huge light bulb went on for him. Yeah. And
we would get so many more diverse solutions, the more diverse inputs we have, right? So
yeah, for sure. And I'm happy that his life is awesome and he's never had to deal with someone like stalking him or anything. But And I don't think we should, Yeah, exactly. Like you come from a different background, and sometimes there's good things in your background, sometimes there's bad things in your background, but all of those things make you able to threat model. I was so awful at threat modeling at the beginning. I guess I've had a really charmed life because I was like, why would someone even do that?
Well, that's 90% of the population, right? Like, I'm not a target. Why would anybody want my stuff?
Exactly.
And now, thanks to like all of my professional mentors like Adrian, Nicole, and Sharif, like I'm like, oh yeah, because they just gave me the ticket to the movies, and now I could go do this and this and this, and then I know how to hand it back so that all of us could get in free. And I'm like, oh my gosh, look at these ideas you put in my head. This is what threat modeling does. Now I'm evil.
And when you walk into a store, you look around for the surveillance cameras and all that stuff, right?
I was so naive at first. Like when I joined security, I was like, what do you mean? Why would someone do that? Because I was a developer.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what are we're nearing the end of the year here. So what do you think is going to happen next year with maybe, DevOps, DevSecOps, privacy? Do you see anything big on the horizon coming, or
another syllable, maybe like DevSec something else ops?
Yeah.
DevSec privacy ops.
Hey, yeah. There you go.
I think that there's going to be a lot more security breaches, unfortunately, a lot more privacy breaches, unfortunately. I think that cyber insurance is going to become a thing that is a real word, not just like a theoretical thing. I think that the public is going to start taking this a bit more seriously and want to know what is going on. I think that companies that basically make all their money off of selling our personal data are going to have a lot of hard questions asked of them. And I think that users are starting to wake up and realize what value they're giving over. Like I have accounts on some social media and I don't on others. And sometimes people ask me like, why don't you do this or that? And I'm like, listen, you've got to do the things to get back what you want, right? And and I use mine for a professional thing, for learning. Really, I follow these super smart people on Twitter and they teach me stuff. But I also think that like the average user is going to have to learn a lot more stuff, which I think is a tragedy. Okay, so this is going to be an unpopular opinion. Get ready to get annoyed with Tanya. I don't think our users should have to know so much. Like I drive my car. Do you think I know how a carburetor works? No, I do not. I know how to drive. And then I know that when blinky lights come on, I bring it across the street to my mechanic and then it gets fixed, right? But with computers and phones, like I heard people say like, well, you should have to be able to remember like these 55 different passwords and how dare you do password reuse? And like, clearly it's impossible for us to know all those things. And I think people get blamed a lot for sharing personal things, like all this awfulness with revenge porn. I think that like people are going to have to become like a lot more savvy. And I think that our industry, it's really sad that our users have to become that savvy in order to use the products we're making. And definitely an unpopular opinion, but
well, I don't think you're not alone though. I think there are a lot of people. I mean, you have to sort of consider it to be the Wild West, right? I mean, there was not a lot of technical safeguards for people living out in the in the prairies. So, but they come eventually. You have to sort of accept the risk or defend yourself, right?
But even so, so last month was Canadian Thanksgiving, and I was with my grandma and my mom, and they're like, we want to go on this Twitter thing. Will you show us how to use Twitter? And so I did this and it's funny because I was tweeting at them, they're tweeting at me, and like my grandma's like, why does it say 6 hearts? I gave you my heart. Why does it say 6 now? And I'm like, oh, other people. She's like, this is a private conversation.
Oh.
And, no, because I hadn't explained it clearly. Right. I just assumed that she knew, which is bad on me, right? So we had this big discussion and we talked about it, and so then they know what to do and how to send me personal messages now. And my mom will call me and be like, "Did you see what InfoSec Sherpa did? She's so cute." Blah blah blah. She's my mom's favorite follow.
So cool.
But like. Not everyone has a me in their family, right? And I feel like our industry, like we need to play some serious catch up so that security is not so hard for the average user, because like it's so hard for developers to make a secure app, and like, damn, someone just buying a phone. Like, do you remember when you used to buy a phone and then you would plug it into your wall and it would ring sometimes, and there was no danger, right? And now there's like serious danger. And yeah, I think our industry, like I'm hoping in the next year there are positive changes, but I fear there will be more serious bad things happening before we get to the point where it turns the curve, where it's like way more good things happening, way less bad things happening. But I hope I'm wrong.
Well, let's yeah, we'll see. I think those are very astute observations or predictions. So I think we're going to have to keep our eye open on, or keep our eyes on those developments.
Definitely. Some other things that I'm doing. So I'm like kind of trying to help and give back, and I've been doing some volunteer work on this thing in Canada called the Digital Dash. So do both of you remember writing the Hello World program the first time you learned to code?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you write it onto the screen, Hello World, and then the next thing you do is you read in the input, right? And then you just take it blindly and put it onto the screen. And now, if you're a security expert, you know that means you're going to have some serious cross-site scripting, if not more problems. So I'm trying to work with the school boards to change the lessons so that we include the basic security concepts from the beginning. So you learn Hello World, and then you learn to read it into the screen, and then the next lesson is like, so what if the person made a mistake and they put in 5,000 characters instead of 5, or like, what if this, what if that, and like to bring, and also to bring the idea of privacy up earlier, especially, like, I know this sounds rather sexist, but especially for little girls. Like, I want it for both genders, but women can be punished exponentially more if certain personal details get out, especially in their careers. And so, like, teach them about privacy, teach them about like what maybe is a good idea to put on the internet versus a bad idea, and things like that, like right from the beginning, so that, yeah, they don't end up learning these lessons in a more difficult manner.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. I think it's great.
And to protect them from non-well-meaning adults.
Absolutely. Yeah. Which is unfortunate, extremely, but
we can teach them. That's what school's for, right?
Yeah.
Like they teach them everything now, right? Like they teach them all the things, because we can't assume that they learn all the things at home. Because I'm sorry about that noise. I think that's me. I turned off all my stuff. It looks like,
totally
Tanya, it's SOS. This is what happens when you work for Microsoft. You like close Outlook and it just keeps ringing. Yeah. Just kidding.
They know where you live.
So how can our listeners contact you and find out more about what you're up to? And
I have a blog. If you go on Medium, I'm She Hacks Purple. And that's because I'm a purple teamer as opposed to red team or blue team. I'm that person in the middle. I also am on Twitter, and again, I'm She Hacks Purple. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not allowed any more connections, which... Yeah.
Maxed it out?
Yeah, there's a max
possible?
number.
Really?
Yeah,
that must have been the last one.
I didn't know that.
No, actually, you know what I did, Scott? I actually disconnected other people so I could connect with you.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah.
I have a stalker.
I would like... this person that's really into marketing and sales that I can't remember. I'm like, I'm just going to remove this person. I'm going to add Scott.
That's the first I've heard of that. I had no idea there was a limit.
You know, it stinks, because like I'll write like a blog post and I'll get some connection requests and I'm like, I want to say yes so badly. What do I do?
Oh man.
So I feel like I look like a jerk, really. But
no, it's all good.
So go on Twitter. Don't go on LinkedIn. I mean, obviously use both, but reach me on Twitter. And or go read my blog, or watch my show DevSlop on YouTube, or streaming live on Mixer and Twitch. And yeah, I like it when people come on the stream and actually ask us questions live, because sometimes I forget to explain the stuff and people are like, why did you do that? Oh, yes. Right. And the audience participation is kind of the funnest part.
Could you just remind us it's Sunday morning, you said?
It's Sunday at 1 p.m.
1 p.m.
Eastern Standard Time every Sunday. and it's about an hour long. Sometimes we go longer if we're stuck on a problem, because what we do is we do a security task together. So for instance, we had one on negative unit tests. So it was a positive unit test. It tests that things work right. It was a negative unit test. I have weaponized your unit tests. That's what yeah. So then we like do them together on the show, and then we make like a little lesson out of it. So
that was like a fun Sunday afternoon.
Very cool.
Thank you. Yeah, this week, if you want to tune in, it's going to be Katie Anton of the OWASP Proactive Controls. And we're going to look at the top proactive controls and like how we could apply them to our projects so that we're more secure.
I work with Katie at Veracode. So yeah. She's awesome.
Oh my God. Like I'm a big
Careful,
fan.
Tom. She's going to start stalking you now.
I know. She's taking the people I work with. So yeah.
I try to be
Katie's great.
cool. I try to
Cool.
play it cool when I see her. I'm like, don't fangirl out. Yeah. Be chill, Tanya. Be chill.
That's awesome.
You know, like when you like use a tool so like I taught the proactive controls at work, and then like to meet her at AppSec USA, I was just like,
that's her baby. Yeah. Very cool.
The security community is so cool how you can like meet these people who are amazing, and then they're nice and they want to talk to you. And anyway, I know we have to wrap up.
That's okay. I'm going to just make sure I assign a task to my developer to watch that streaming on Sunday afternoon. So
You'll have more participation.
one. You'll have more
than that. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Tom, when will this episode air?
This is going to air before the weekend. So
Oh, there you go. So
we'll
advertise it and get more people
That's
up there for you.
Cool. Thank you so much. And it was such a pleasure talking.
It's been a lot of fun, and we're going to have you back because I know you'll be doing a lot more exciting stuff in the next while.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
It would be my pleasure.
Great. Good stuff. Well, thank you. And thanks, Tom. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And we'll be back again another time soon. I think you can, everybody knows where to find us on YouTube and Facebook, Shared Security Podcast. And until next time, thanks a lot and see you later.